We had Taylor Rooks on recently, who is from Atlanta. She lives in New York now, but is a huge Hawks fan. And I made a passing comment that the Hawks' run to the conference finals was surprising. Maybe that's the wrong word. I don't know. But for a lot of casual NBA fans, I think the Hawks, being the fifth seed, not having home court in any of the rounds, it was a surprising run to the conference finals. What was your team's level of confidence when the playoffs started?
I mean, it was really high, and I feel like it's so like easy to say. It's so cliche to say. This locker room's tight. Everyone has each other's backs. We're confident, young team, blah blah blah. Like I feel like in a lot of ways we just stayed in the moment, and we didn't really think about. We're playing the Knicks, and we thought we were better than the Knicks even before the series started. But there's a lot of other people go into the Philly series and the Milwaukee series where there's a lot of people that argue it's like they might have been better teams. But it's kind of like that wasn't really just how we felt. And in the locker room was, all right, we're going game by game. And, why would we not be confident? And just like you said, when there's no pressure on you, when everyone is kind of surprised at when you're winning and when you're not supposed to be winning, it's pretty easy to go into games and just kind of be like, well, I mean, if we lose, we're supposed to lose. If we're not, then it doesn't really matter. And we really stayed in the moment, really game by game. We didn't get ahead of ourselves, which I guess is tough to do when you're kind of surprising everybody, but we're talented. And, we went, when we started the year, we had a really deep team, a really young team, but we felt like we're really, really talented and beat some pretty good teams over the course of the year that we thought if we could just get everyone healthy, we could kind of get everyone healthy and get into the playoffs and obviously find matchups that we like, we'd be a pretty tough out, especially with the way Trae can kind of control a game and defensively with Clint kind of being our anchor. And we have shooters that obviously you saw in a couple of these series. We just felt like in a lot of ways we had a complete team that people might not be aware of and hadn't seen before. And so when we got into the playoffs, again, a lot of it did start with Trae, just kind of his fearlessness and how he plays, but everyone fed off that. And it was there was a lot of confidence, honestly. That was the first thing. There was a lot of belief. There was a lot of confidence because it's like, why would we not have that belief or confidence?
I got you know this obviously, but there's a large contingent of minority owners in the ownership group with Atlanta. Tony Ressler's the main guy, and then there's a bunch of smaller owners, and a few of them are Duke guys. Grant being one of them, and then there's a couple Duke guys up here in New York that I'm friends with, and one of them texted me before the Knicks series, like, "Do you think we have any chance?" And I'm like, "I think you're going to sweep them." Like, that to me was an obvious, like, Hawks are going to win that series. You guys just had, to me, it was way too much skill relative to what the Knicks had, so right. I wasn't surprised there. I do want to talk a little bit about that series, though, because for a lot of people on the national stage who maybe don't pay attention to the Hawks, your boy Trae is an absolute asshole on the court, and he just I don't want to bring myself into it, but in some ways, like, I was reminded of me being at Duke and like being the villain, and I was like, yo, I can really appreciate just how much he embraced that role in that series. He
does, and I feel like you could relate to this the most. It's a big topic. People love to talk about it. The bowing, the shimmying. I feel like it's a fun way to play the game. But here's what I've been explaining to people in the last month or so. We're at the highest level of our game. Obviously, you come up your whole life. Everyone, obviously, all of us tells us how great we are. If you get into MSG, playing the Knicks in the playoffs of, like I said, the highest playoff in basketball, in the third possession of the game, the whole entire crowd is chanting "F you, Trae," like "F you." If you get that, like, I feel like I'm not Trae, but I feel like if I had all those people chanting "F you," the first chance I get, I'm doing something back to the crowd. It's kind of like an "F you" back. So this is what I say to people. I'm like, I feel like, one, if you were in the same situation, you would do the same thing back. But two, it's like and maybe he does, I just feel like he didn't create the hate in that series. That was like right away, New York was on him. New York singled him out and was like, we're going to try to get in this guy's head. We're going to try to flip him. And I mean, Trae, that whole series, talk the talk and he walked the walk. And, obviously at game 5, he bowed, he kind of put away the series, but that wasn't something he started. And people love to talk about, again, what he was doing during the game. But I'm like, third possession, game 1 in their plays, he didn't do anything to create it. There was no beef like during the year between our two teams. They had beat us 3 times, and we overall were just like, all right, whatever. And third possession, it's F you, Trae. I feel like for me, myself, I would do something back. And again, I feel like you know what that's like being a Duke.
Well, I was gonna chime in here that basically, my freshman year we played all home games, and then our first few road games were at neutral sites. We played UCLA at Conseco at the time, whatever it's called now, in Indiana. We played Greensboro Coliseum in the Big Ten ACC Challenge against Ohio State. Then we broke for Christmas. We had a couple home games at Christmas. And then right after the New Year, we go to Clemson. It's our first real road game, and we're undefeated. And I'm having a pretty good year to that point. And I get out for warmups, and it's like, to your point, they've singled me out. Like I don't think I've done anything to this point. And so it took a little bit of time, but at some point you just have to embrace it, because, there's that video that was on the internet of all the fans out, the Knicks fans out in the street, screaming after they won. And a lot of it directed towards Trae. And it's just like, okay, if they're going to treat me this way, I have no choice. I've got to be the villain. I've got to put on a show. It's part of the performance, the bowing, the head nodding, the smiles, the waving to the crowd, the blowing kisses, all that shit. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I mean, it's part of the show. It's the entertainment, right? It's the entertainment of the NBA. But yeah, you got to embrace it. I feel like if you don't, you kind of let it eat at you, and that's even worse.
Did they give you anything? Any shit?
They didn't. I'm from New York. I'm not from the city. I got a lot of reminders of that during that series on social media. But I feel like overall I was pretty safe. Again, probably half those people in the stands didn't know who I was at the time. So again, there was a lot of attention on people that weren't me, which was good. Again, it was a tough crowd.